demonstrates why we need affirmative action. Seeing women in Parliament should be the norm, not an exception. The only way to normalise it is to have affirmative action, and then terms like quota queens would simply disappear and they'd think colleague.
Good well, she should have a chat to those Labor senators, those disparaging Labor senators.
This is the National Panasonic Model R-238R 2-band 11 transistor portable radio. I'd say this is from the 70s. It receives AM and shortwave bands. It has only one shortwave band. It can be run on a 4.5 volt DC adapter or 3 size D batteries. This is a fairly typical style of unit from the 70s. It's made in Japan, of course, this one. There's nothing particularly special about this radio, but there is to me. When I was 6 years old, my parents bought a holiday house out in the country in a town called Springhurst, which is out in country Victoria. I believe it was a farmhouse at one point. I'm not 100% sure, but the previous owners left a lot of things there. A lot of things that they didn't want and didn't need and didn't take with them when they moved out for whatever reason. Dad built a tree house for me and my sister in one of the trees on the property. And either he or I thought it would be good to have a little radio in the tree house. We found a radio the same model as this one. I think it belonged to the previous owners. Now this particular radio isn't the same one that I had that had belonged to the previous owners of the house. That radio got basically trashed. But I was given that radio when I was 6 years old. It didn't last me very long because I was very rough with it. It wasn't the first portable radio I owned, but I have quite fond memories of that radio. On the front here you can see the tuning dial and the tuning indicator light, the tone switch, and of course the speakers on the front as well. On the side you've got the tuning knob and the volume control. On the top is the shortwave antenna. The little cap is missing, but that's okay because I can still pull the antenna up, and it's quite a, when it's fully extended, it's actually quite a long antenna. So I can imagine on a good day with good conditions you'll get quite reasonable shortwave reception on here. I very briefly tried shortwave reception when I got this radio, and it did seem to work. And I should talk about how I came across this radio. I was just browsing eBay the other day, about 2 weeks ago, just over 2 weeks ago, looking at portable radios, and I came across somebody who was selling an assortment of portable radios. I'd say most of them were from the 70s, and this was one of them. And I recognised it immediately, because I recognised it as being the same model as the portable radio that I had as a child. And I contacted the eBay seller and said, I had one of these radios as a child, does this one work? I'm interested in purchasing it. And they said that they had tested it and it worked. They even sent me a picture of the little green tuning indicator light there, and I'll quickly show you that.
For that, I have a lovely chap called Harold who writes articles in
So when I press and hold this button here,
What, he ghost writes for you?
you can see
Ghost write for you?
No, it goes under his name.
the light is on. The dial is also illuminated, although because it's quite bright in this room here, you won't be able to see it properly. You might just be able to see the light there. If I angle the radio this way, you can see the lights on in there.
Having got the smart meter, and his utility bill is up 28 cents. There you go.
They told me the radio worked.
It's 10:45.
And so I paid for it and purchased it. When I received it on Monday this week, I couldn't get it working. The radio uses 3 D-size batteries. And as you can see, all the batteries go in the same way. They are going with the positive end facing downward, which I thought was rather odd. But nevertheless, that's how they go in. I put the batteries in it. These are new batteries. I put them in, But the radio wouldn't go. It just simply wouldn't operate. And it didn't take me too long to find out why. Somebody had left flat batteries in this radio, and they had rusted. I'll take the batteries out so you can get a good look at the terminals. You see these two terminals on the left and in the centre here? They're the original terminals, and they do look a little bit rusty. They've got these little protruding nubs on them. You might be able to see that these little nubs stick up. And you'll notice the terminal on the right here looks very different. The terminal on the right hand side there was missing its little nub, so it wasn't making contact with the positive tip on the battery. My sister's boyfriend removed the original contact and replaced it with this bit of metal, and you can see there's a small dab of solder on it. That got it working. So I was delighted when my sister's boyfriend came down when my sister's boyfriend came downstairs with the radio, put the batteries in it, turned it on, and it worked. I'll just put the batteries back in. It's a bit of a squeeze to get the batteries in the radio, actually. And I'm also struggling to get the cover back on. It was on, but now it's not. There we go. I fixed that up. I contacted the eBay seller, of course, and said, look, you told me the radio was working, but then when I received it, it didn't want to work. Did you test the radio with an AC adapter or with batteries? And they got back to me and said, yeah, we tested it with a power adapter. We're sorry it wasn't working for you, but we're glad you've managed to fix it now. So I'm happy about that. But I just think it would have been good if the eBay seller had said the battery terminals have a bit of rust on them. And this is an eBay seller who sell a lot of old equipment. Radios, car parts, things like that. And I understand they can't test every single thing, and they do say we can't test every single thing. Things you buy from us might need some maintenance. But it doesn't take much to check the battery contacts for corrosion and quickly test the radio with batteries. It really doesn't take that much. So why couldn't they have, said the radio works on mains power but not on batteries because the battery terminals have rusted? So I was a little bit disappointed about that. But nevertheless, the radio is working now, and I'm happy that it's working. This is the carrying case the radio came in. Now, when I had the one that I had originally, I didn't have a case for it. There was a photo of the radio in the carrying case on eBay, but they didn't actually mention the carrying case in the description. The case was a little bit dirty inside, and I am having trouble trying to get the little holes on the back to go over those little press stud receptors there. And then there's the top, but I can't seem to be able to get the top to go all the way down. So I don't think I'll be using this carrying case very much. It's a bit wrecked, I think. Probably just due to old age. So I don't think I'll be making much use of a carrying case. I should, really, to protect the radio, but I think the case is a bit wrecked. So I don't quite know what I'll do with that. We'll see if we can get shortwave reception in the house. I don't think we'll get much because the atmosphere is not quite right, and also there are a lot of digital appliances in this house that generate a lot of RF noise. So I don't know if the radio will pick up anything on shortwave, but we can at least try it, I suppose. can very faintly hear something, but there's a lot of noise. It's picking up a few stations, but we're also getting a lot of static, and I don't quite know why that's happening. That's horrible noise. Yeah, I think it's better to try and listen to shortwave at night. And if I take the radio outside away from all this RF noise, it might be better.
Collision on King Street near Victoria Street, but only minor delays on the approach there on King Street both directions. In Albert Park, Lakeside Drive's closed off once again as they set up for the Grand Prix next weekend. Should be reopening around 3:30 this afternoon. Certainly
would see numbers drop further, with staffing levels of fewer than 4,400 being available by 2017-18.
Yeah, it's picking up lots of noise.
Testimony in November.
Get down there. I think it's all members of both clubs, obviously for free, but anyone else pay you $10 and come in. It'd be a great opportunity.
Serious accidents at the Burt by Richmond. Adelaide traffic, well, no major problems there.
60 Miss Julia, and still Brom at 11.
Yeah, I like...
Back on the ABC.
Good morning, Mary McDonald with ABC News. Victoria's Fire Services Commissioner Craig Lapsley says he's taking seriously concerns for firefighters' safety. The United Firefighters Union says independent testing of water used to fight the fire in parts of the Hazelwood coal mine reveals high levels of dangerous bacteria. 13 firefighters have contacted the union with concerns about the water. One firefighter has also had surgery and 22 stitches in his hand after a small cut became infected. Mr Lapsley says the matter is being looked into.
That's under investigation. We've used South Australian Metropolitan Fire Service, their senior officer, to come and review that for us. I've engaged independent audits myself from day one, so I've had an independent OHS auditor reporting to me about the processes and systems. What it tells you, we've got a very interesting environment that's changing daily,
Victoria Police Chief Commissioner Ken Lay says police are pursuing a number of leads in the death of a newborn baby at St Albans in Melbourne's northwest yesterday. The child's body was found on a footpath near Ruth Street after a family member reported the death. Police are questioning an 18-year-old woman from St Albans. Commissioner Lay says the investigation is still in the early stages.
We have a number of people that are helping us with work through that investigation. I don't really want to comment much further than that. The investigation is in its very, very early stages, but we do have some positive leads that we are pursuing.
The Prime Minister Tony Abbott says the government is discussing Russia's aggression against Ukraine with allies. The European Union has announced a series...
So that's that, basically. This is the radio that I had as a child. I'm happy that it is working now, even though I had to ask my sister's boyfriend to fix it for me. And it's working quite well. Anyway, thanks for watching and feel free to leave a comment if you have one.